The 911 model line, neunelf in German, has a lot of life in it yet, and proof of that comes with the latest T-Hybrid version of this mid-level Carrera GTS. With more focus than the mainstream Carrera models, and just a taste of 911 turbo, it might well be all the 911 you could ever need.
With added T-Hybrid tech, Porsche's 911 Carrera GTS might still mark the sweet spot in the 911 range. Here, we're going to take a closer look. The very idea of a hybrid Porsche 911 was enough to send shockwaves around the sports car community. Enthusiasts had visions of a two-tonne plug-in version of this iconic model, which then arguably wouldn't really be a 911 at all. What we got instead, of course, in the form of this car, the 911 GTS T-Hybrid, isn't that at all. The hybrid tech hasn't added undue weight, and though it aids efficiency, it's really all about performance. At the time of our test in early summer 2025, the introduction of this electrified 3.6 litre T-Hybrid unit was limited to this mid-level GTS model, the car that sits between the Carrera variants at the bottom end of the range and the GT3 and turbo models at the top. Like other current 911s, this GTS also benefits from a package of 992.2 era upgrades, which are more significant to the engineering, the visual appeal and the cabin of this car than they might appear at first glance. As for the T-Hybrid power plant, well, it's offered to GTS customers in rear-driven or Carrera 4 formats with a choice of 3 body shapes: coupe, targa or this cabriolet. All variants are pricey, which means tough class competition, as you'll see from a perusal of rivals on the Car and Driving app. But is this new era GTS the ultimate segment choice? Well, you'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving road test, to find that out. In this GTS T-Hybrid model, there's no old-fashioned starter motor, so on the push of this 992.2 model's new starter button, the engine fires up instantly. You're ready, but for what? This T-Hybrid model's output is now 541 PS, 61 PS more than the original unelectrified 992 series GTS model we tried in 2023 could manage. With 62 miles an hour achievable in 3 seconds flat or 3.1 seconds in this cabriolet version. And that's on the way to 194 miles an hour. Why you'd now still pay more for a 911 turbo is difficult to fathom. As before, GTS customers get a choice of rear-driven or four-wheel drive formats. Try the rear-driven version with its now wider rear tyres before you finally make up your mind. And we have the Carrera 4 version here. All that speed comes from a very different kind of engine. It's still a boxer flat 6, of course, but it's now 3.6 litres in size, up from 3 litres, and now uses just 1 turbocharger instead of 2. That's because the turbo is now aided by a 54 PS electric motor energised by a 1.9 kilowatt hour 216 cell battery weighing just 27 kilos. The end result is that everything is even more instant as the electric turbo spins up to 120,000 RPM, to the accompaniment of a rather pleasing selection of gurgles and whistles and whines. The 400-volt hybrid tech energises all kinds of drive systems, including the starter, the alternator, the nose lift setup, and an optional electro-hydraulic roll stabilisation PDCC setup that you'll probably want to pay extra for. All 911s get the same drive modes. There are wet, normal, sport and sport plus options with a red button in the middle of the rotary selector dial, which gives you 20 seconds of all-out power for those occasions when the rapidly travelling M3 or C63 in front of you is contriving to hold you up a bit. Sport Plus mode delivers a satisfyingly loud sports exhaust flare when you let the flat 6 out back rev out to 7,500 RPM. There are now bigger brakes, and a revised PASM adaptive damping system is standard, as is PTV, Porsche Torque Vectoring, for better cornering traction. There's also rear axle steering to aid cornering stability and to usefully reduce the turning circle at parking speeds too by 0.5 metre to 10.6 metres, and that's something that you'll really appreciate when you're manoeuvring in packed city streets. As before, there's an adaptive rear spoiler which deploys at 56 miles an hour into the first of 3 positions to aim to keep the rear of the car pinned down to the tarmac. Also, as before, no super sports car is more usable than this one for those many occasions when you don't want to drive it like a super sports car. And that's helped by the fact that you sit higher than you would do in a rival model, and visibility is much better. A perfect accompaniment to all this is the sweet shifting 8-speed PDK Auto gearbox with its expertly judged ratios and lovely cool metal steering wheel paddle shifters. This GTS model sets itself apart from lesser 911 Carreras by the 5 vertically arranged active cooling air flaps which feature on each side of the lower section of the nose. You can have your GTS in coupe or Targa forms, or in this soft top cabriolet guise. If you're upgrading from the earlier 992 era GTS model, you'll recognise this 992.2 version by its redesigned headlights, the revised rear light strip and smarter bumpers. We may have had to drill down into the detail to cover the exterior updates to this car, but even someone with a mere passing acquaintance with 911 models will be able to appreciate the changes made to the cabin, which power-operated door handles spring out to allow you to enter. For the first time, the 911 has a fully digital instrument cluster. We'll take a closer look at its many formats in a moment, but even though a rev counter can remain its central format, you might think it a shame that the classic analog tachometer is no more, and that the old starter switch has been replaced by the kind of button that everyone else uses. Otherwise, everything is much as it was before, in an interior that still feels luxurious, contemporary and nicely understated. As usual in a 911, you sit low and snug, thankful for the faultless ergonomics and the perfect positioning of this thin 3-spoke Porsche crested wheel, to which this drive mode dial is now fitted as standard. We mentioned this 12.6-inch curved driver's display, the installation of which opens up the opportunity to show full screen mapping, one of a wide variety of selectable layouts, which also includes a classic format inspired by the traditional 5-tube Porsche dial design with a central tachometer. As before, infotainment is taken care of by this nicely integrated 10.9-inch Porsche Communications Management central screen, but this monitor now offers more customization options for drive modes and for driver assistance systems. Plus, there are lots of new connectivity features too, including video streaming, along with the usual weather and news reports, and also a sport chrono lap timing section. What else? Well, the seats have a wide base cushion that's particularly supportive and feel particularly good if your car has a 14-way or, as a top option, 18-way power adjustment package. These chairs slide back a long way and there are perfectly placed pedals. It's all good. As always in a 911, all-round visibility is of a completely different order to anything you'd find in any other super sports car. The classically distinctive bulges around the headlamps give you a clear idea as to where the front wheels are. That does make car park maneuvering considerably easier than it would be in a, say, a lower slung rival. Slim windscreen pillars mean your front three-quarter view isn't impeded at junctions. In this cabriolet though, your rear vision isn't quite as good as it would be in the coupe, so you'll be very glad of the rear view camera, or as in this case, the optional surround view camera. And practicality, well, as part of this 992.2 update, Porsche has built a wireless phone charger into this lidded box between the seats, a cooled area which also accommodates a pair of USB-C ports. Otherwise though, cabin storage is somewhat limited, as you would expect it to be in a sports car. The two-part door pockets are still so narrow as to only be any good for the storage of things that you have recently run over, but there is a reasonably sized glove box, and along with ticket clips in the sun visors too. For cups, we'd like to have seen a better solution than this rather ugly single holder inserted instead between the seats, which gets in the way of the electronic handbrake switch. To avoid that, you can pull it out and replace it with the provided insertable cubby compartment. As before, a further pull-out cup holder is hidden away on the passenger side of the dashboard. The 911 has always offered rear seats in a class where rivals often haven't bothered, and it still does. They're not very comfortable though, and as an adult, anything more than a short journey in the back of this cabriolet model will be even more excruciating, because the seat backs with this body shape are even more upright, all of which means you'll mainly be pressing these rear chairs into service for the carriage of jackets and designer shopping bags. Or kids, of course. If it happens to be your weekend to have the grandchildren, you'll be jolly pleased to find that a child seat will just about fit into the Isofix mountings provided either side of the transmission tunnel. The seat backs split and fold down flat, allowing you to easily carry longer items of luggage, a set of golf clubs for example. Having this extra space for potential bag stowage is important, given that, well, as with any super sports car, trunk space is at a bit of a premium. The mid-engine configuration of Porsche's old 718 Boxster Cabrio model freed up space for a rear boot compartment, but of course with this twin-turbo 3-litre 6 slung out the back, you don't get that with the 911. Just this flap that rises to reveal an engine plaque and access to various service reservoirs. That means anything that you can't fit inside has to go into this compartment beneath the sculpted bonnet. Now, this front mounted boot will be 132 litres in size, regardless of your chosen 911's rear driven, four-wheel drive, hybrid or non-hybrid status. That is a pitiful figure, of course, and it'll be beaten easily by a front-engined rival like an AMG SL. Still, at least this area is quite deep, which means it's large enough to swallow a typical carry-on flight case, perhaps a couple of softer bags, or maybe even the proceeds from a mid-level supermarket excursion. Loading's easy too, because the nose is quite low. Tucked into this LED lit space is an emergency warning triangle and a get-you-home puncture repair kit. Ultimately though, you really can't make the most of what's on offer here unless you pay extra for the tailored 911 luggage set. At the time of this test in summer 2025, GTS T-Hybrid pricing started from around £138,000 for the rear-driven coupe and from £148,000 for the rear-driven GTS T-Hybrid cabriolet, at around £6,500 more if you want either model with Carrera 4 all-wheel drive. That's the version we have here. To give you some range perspective, the rear-driven GTS price is about £33,000 more than the equivalent unelectrified Carrera model. You'll pay from around £155,000 for the Targa GTS, which is only offered in four-wheel drive form. Across the 911 range, the PASM Porsche Adaptive Suspension Management System, this is now standard, and most models also now get rear axle steering. Also now standard are Matrix LED headlamps, which feature more than 32,000 light points. Inside, the brand's steering wheel mounted drive mode dial is now standard as well, and as we told you already in the design section, the car now benefits from a fully digital instrument display. There's also comfort access keyless entry, a reversing camera, a front seat heating, cruise control, 2-zone climate control, 4-way adjustable sports seats and an alarm. If you stretch to this GTS variant, you'll also get a heated Alcantara style, race text trimmed GT Sport steering wheel, Sport Seats Plus front chairs, and a 12-speaker 570 watt Bose surround sound system, which is optional further down the range. With all of that taken into account, you're ready for an expensive spell on the Porsche configurator. This test GTS model has some of the items that you'll probably want, like 14-way adjustable adaptive sports seats plus front chairs and a surround view camera system with active parking support. You might also want to look at the desirable 915 watt 13 speaker Burmester high-end surround sound audio upgrade, 18-way adjustable adaptive sports seat plus front chairs, front seat ventilation, night view assist, an ionizer and an HD upgrade for the Matrix LED headlamps. Remember that unless you order your 911 in solid white or black, you are going to be paying Porsche a lot more for your choice of paint colour too. Over £1,700 more in the case of the carmine red metallic finish we have here. Consider all that before you start spending big on aesthetics, as of course is very easily possible. This test car has a bespoke GTS interior package, but of course you can go a great deal further than that, both inside and out. Some of the trimming options though can be somewhat garish and they won't help your residuals at all. If somehow you still have more to spend, we'd suggest you consider driving stuff. We have adaptive cruise control fitted here, but to go further and get that system functioning with the kind of semi-autonomous drive camera features which are now routinely fitted to luxury cars in this segment, you are going to have to pay extra for Porsche's expensive inner drive package. If you're urban based, the front axle lifting system for easing you over speed humps would be a good idea. The remote park assist arrangement and the power steering plus setup for lighter parking speed wheel turning, that might be a good investment too. If you stretch to this expensive GTS model, then you can also consider the option of Porsche's advanced electro-hydraulic roll stabilization PDCC setup, and you can add a vastly expensive ceramic composite braking system. On to safety. Porsche has never been particularly generous in this regard, but they've had to start building a lot more camera features in as part of this generation to preserve a sensible Euro NCAP safety rating status. There's a warn and brake assist autonomous braking system. This also has distance warning, lane keeping assist, lane departure warning. There's a motorway light assistant. There's a brake recommendation system, and of course there's acoustic speed warning. The Porsche 2X hazard warning setup that advises you in advance about local hazards. Proactive occupant protection that prepares the cabin for an impact if a crash is deemed inevitable, and a wet detector, well, that notifies you when a wet surface is detected. The car also has the optional lane change assist feature too. What about the basic safety stuff? Well, all mainstream 911 models come, of course, with twin front, side and curtain airbags integrated as part of the Porsche side impact protection system. You also get tyre pressure monitoring, that's along with the usual braking aids. And of course, there's the best stability system in the business, PSM, or Porsche Stability Management Traction Control. This includes an extra PSM sport setting, which allows the driver to throw the car about a bit more without intervention, yet keeps a safety net in place if ambition gets the better of your talent. There is also a post-collision braking system too, which will automatically brake the car after you've hit something, and that prevents you from going on and having further impacts. Isofix child seat mounts are fit to both rear seats, but if you want an Isofix mount in the front passenger seat, then you're going to have to pay extra for that. If you were hoping that the installation of T-Hybrid tech in the GTS model might significantly improve this 911's efficiency figures, then you might be a bit disappointed. Actually, they're not all that much different from those of an ordinary Carrera, and a bit worse probably because of the extra 50 kilos that the T-Hybrid system adds to the car's curb weight. The GTS T-Hybrid Cabriolet manages bests of 26.6 miles per gallon and 243 grams per kilometre, or 244 grams per kilometre in Carrera 4 form. Figures which are pretty much the same as those of the equivalent coupe. Think in terms of a driving range between fill-ups of about 475 miles. Annoyingly, right-hand drive 911s can't be specified with the supersized 83-litre fuel tank that you can get in Europe, which would add a useful 150 miles to that. What else? Well, all 911s are covered by the brand's usual 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, and the 911 also has 12 years of anti-corrosion cover and a 3-year paint warranty too. Insurance for a car of this kind, of course, with this power and performance, it's never going to be cheap. All variants come in at a top of the shop Group 50 rating. Still, residual value percentages are uber high. Think in the upper 50s after 3 years of ownership, or even better than that. Do bear in mind that depreciation will take a bit of a hit if you load the car up with too many unnecessary extras. There's a wider dealer network that many rivals can offer, and you'll only need to visit your local Porsche centre every 2 years or every 20,000 miles, whichever comes around first. There is no option to buy into a prepaid servicing package at point of purchase, but the brand does provide a fixed price servicing approach, which makes sure that you'll know in advance exactly what work will be carried out on your car and what it's going to cost. It's to Porsche's credit that the installation of the T-Hybrid engine has embellished rather than diminished the 911's performance credentials. The technology suggests an emphasis on efficiency, but its installation in this GTS model is really all about enhancement of the thrilling drive dynamics that have always set this iconic model line apart. We wish it wasn't now so expensive, but this car is beautifully built. It'll hold on to its value, and it now has an even more luxurious yet still driver-focused interior. Whether the GTS model is still the sweet spot in the range is a matter for debate. This Gran Turismo Sport interpretation of what a 911 should be might still not be the most addictive choice from the lineup, but as an ownership proposition, there's just a chance it could prove to be the most satisfying one.